Hi, everyone. It's Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com here at DevOps Enterprise Summit UK 2018. And we're joined now by three Capital One employees or Capital One representatives, three DevOps enthusiasts from Capital One. Let me introduce, starting to my far right, this man needs no introduction to anyone from DevOps.com or from DevOps Enterprise Summit or any other DevOps-related stuff. It's Topo of Capital One.
Thank
Welcome.
you for inviting.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. Sitting next to Topo is Aimee Bechtel.
Hello.
Welcome, Aimee.
Thank you.
Can you just briefly, I don't know your title, and if you could share it with our audience.
I'm a senior manager in our next generation infrastructure services organization, and I help people help adopt change and new technologies.
Excellent. And then last but not least, to my immediate right is, we looked at the wrong one here. Yes, Jon Schmidt.
Hey. Yeah, and I'm actually not a DevOps expert. I work in the business. I'm a director of product management at Capital One.
Well, if you notice, I didn't say DevOps expert. I said DevOps enthusiast.
Okay, well, that
you
I
qualify.
That I am.
But Jon, welcome. and Jon, let's not belittle your position. You represent the voice of the business here.
All right.
Or in this panel anyway. And we're going to talk about that in a broad sense today, and that's business buy-in, right? For too long, my background is the information security, cybersecurity world. And for too long in cybersecurity, we have what we call shiny trinket syndrome, where we're like fish, that you can fish out without any real bait on there. Just put anything shiny on and we'll jump at it. But it's not just security. IT as a whole suffers from shiny trinket syndrome, right? We're always looking for the next magic bullet, the next silver bullet, the next thing that's going to solve our problems, miraculously. But there are no shortcuts. There are no magic bullets. There are shiny trinkets, and we waste money on them. Without that magic bullet, though, how do we get business buy-in? And when I talk about business, Jon, I mean in the broad sense, leadership, non-technical folks, non-IT folks buying into something like DevOps, right? As well as the engineers, the developers, the ops folks, the QA folks. Because without their buy-in, I don't care how good your tools are, how good a framework you have, without their buy-in, it's not going to work. Now, Capital One has been wildly successful with this. Topo, if you don't mind, let's start with you.
So yeah, so the few things, right? The age-old idea of IT being the cost center is kind of gone, right? So
yeah.
IT is the business, and Capital One is technology company that happens to be back. So that's kind of our primary focus. The second thing is, if at the end, from business or IT perspective, it doesn't matter. Customers don't care how you run your software; they want features. So ultimately, is satisfying the customers, right? So that's the end goal. And since from IT perspective, we do not have kind of day-to-day direct interaction with customers, that's where the business comes in. That kind of speaks for the customer or on the behalf of the customer. So from us, our perspective is you are kind of the storyteller from the customer's perspective to the IT, saying whether we are doing good or bad. So kind of, from your perspective, what do you see as what's going on with the DevOps and cloud adoption and technology transformation, digital transformation overall is very key to this equation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And our CEO often says that risk management is the business, and I think that's just as true for consumer credit as it is for investing in software. As a product manager, I feel like my role is to be investing in software to create or sustain a competitive advantage. At Capital One, for most of the investments I've been involved in, that has been what can we do to make our customers more successful, to delight our customers, to surprise them in positive ways. And so we spend an inordinate amount of our time and energy focused on the customer, studying them, asking them questions. What's going to unlock value for them? And it is absolutely our role to share that with the team and to get them excited about it. a lot of times, paying your credit card bill might not sound like a very exciting thing, but it certainly is frustrating when it doesn't go smoothly. And so we study that very closely, and we have the duty to bring that perspective to the team and get them excited about it. I think there's a lot of things to be excited about when you're investing in software. People care a lot about their money, and there's a burden of responsibility too to make sure we're taking really good care of people's money, their identity, and their credit rating.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think a really overlooked aspect of this process that you guys are describing, and it's true in DevOps, it was true before DevOps even though, is yes, it's very easy, not very easy. It's hard for you to ask customers and get that feedback. Mr. Customer or Miss Customer, what would you like? What would make your life easier? How would you like us to serve you better? But even if you were successful in getting that, what I've seen in my lifetime, in my career, is even if you got that, there's only a fraction of the companies that even get that. But even if you got that, translating that into real business ideas, real planning, right? How do I implement that? How do I make that happen, right? So the whole planning, I'm drawn back to one of my companies. We did a vulnerability management, scanning and remediation. And the idea was, you throw off so many vulnerabilities in a scan that you find, and you want to group vulnerability, servers or instances of a vulnerability so that we can remediate them all at once. I'm going to take care of all of this, all of that. But then I want groups and subgroups, right? We knew that our customers wanted subgroups, the ability to do groups of groups and super groups and subgroups. And we gave that to our engineers. And the translation just fell on its face. Right? It didn't do what the customer really was aiming for.
Yeah.
How do we collectively, or how do you do it at Capital One, take your hard-earned and well-earned data and ideals? How does that translate into better software?
Well,
Go ahead.
I guess, to me, when I hear that question, I'm surprised as why can't we flip that? Why are we going out to them? Why can't we bring them into our environment and help them drive alongside with us to implement some of those features and functionalities? Make it easier for teams to work alongside the customer and let the product owners and the product managers deliver with the team the development of the stories and the features instead of making it harder to go out to them. To me, it's an immersion solution, which is why I like that model, and even changing our engineers and how they think and their behaviors.
Yeah, I think it's especially difficult if, and a lot of big organizations are like this, they're coming from more of a top-down command and control order taker. The requirement comes in, I do what I'm told, I ship my software and I'm done. And Aimee's really onto something with this idea of better immersion and increasing the amount of context that's being shared between the customer and the engineers. My usual joke at this juncture when I hear stories like yours, and I don't, is that if we build what the customers say they want, we will almost certainly fail. We need to build what they need, and for that you need to understand fundamentally what the problem is. And the difficulty is for me, when I'm translating the definition of the problem and we have some extraordinarily talented problem solvers at Capital One. And if you're an extraordinarily talented problem solver, the thing you love to do is to solve problems. So they jump immediately into problem solving and solutions mode before I've even had a chance to fully explain the problem to them, right? And the thing is, if you can get every one of your engineers fully immersed in the context and the problem that the customer is experiencing, and that customer can be an external customer, a cardholder, or it could be an internal customer, someone that's going to use your capability to create a solution for someone else. Then you can really, truly unleash all of their expertise, all their creativity to find an innovative way to solve that problem. And that leads to competitive advantage.
Sure.
And if you're testing what you're building and frequent releases and getting that feedback from the market, then you'll know whether you're meeting that customer's needs. And that's what DevOps does for you as well. It allows you to deliver at a high frequency and get that fast feedback from that market and be able to pivot. And that, without DevOps, I don't know how you would be able to do that.
Yeah, another thing that I'm seeing, in my early career, I used to see from IT perspective that there's a layer of abstraction between the business and IT, and we call that business
Just
analyst.
one layer?
Well, layer. Yeah, it's sort of business analyst or system analyst that actually translated or
Yes.
became that's kind of going away. And I don't, the stuff that you guys are doing, this is like the ideal situation. You kind of directly hear from the actual sort of customer facing, side of it, rather than getting translated by multiple layers.
Yeah. No, I Topo, I'd like you, grew up with those layers, right? We had business analysts, systems analysts, and there were ecosystems built on this,
Yeah.
right? Vast empires, and they are going away, and so we're seeing ops people and dev and security and QA folks come into that business planning,
Yep.
right? Meeting the customer eye to eye, face to face. I've met the customer, he's me, right? And understanding that. And it makes it a tremendous, I think anyway, it makes a tremendous difference in developing solutions that people are going to value. There's another aspect, we touched on it a bit off camera, and that is, when we talk about business buy-in, motivating these engineers, right? Our people are our most valuable commodity.
Yes.
And in large organizations especially, we see this. Look, you pay well, right? It's a good job, good benefits. It's hard to keep people as agents of change or as agents of progress, right? People tend to fall into ruts, into their ways of doing things. How do you, Aimee, in your role, keep people bought into this, right? Buying into progress and
I'm
change.
going to go back to immersion and bringing them in to solve the problem, and we use a cross-skilling and an upskilling where we pair masters with apprentices, and we allow them in a psychologically safe environment to learn new skills and fail and recover from that failure quickly because they're working alongside the experts.
I'm going to stop you. So I know just what you're talking about. I'm sure Jon and Topo do. I don't know if our audience really understands. Talking about upskilling, cross-skilling, pairing masters and apprentices. They're not all up to that.
Yeah.
Talk to us.
So there's an immersion or experiential learning model where you can take your actual backlog and your intent, scope out a very thin slice of delivering on that intent, and bring the experts or the masters to that team and allow them to either pair program or mobbing techniques and learn from each other and learn from these masters so that they can accelerate the development of their expertise, build up those skills, feel more confident, and do that in a psychologically safe environment where they can recover quickly from the mistakes that they make. I think there's two options when you're working with teams that need to adopt and evolve to the next level, next generation. You can use coercion or fear methods, or you can use influential methods. And I don't think you can be surprised if you use coercion, you end up with an anxious, fearful team that might even in some way retaliate and push back. But if you're getting below the surface and you are leadership and you have empathy for what they might be going through, you can tap into some of what they're feeling and work with that and create that safe environment.
Fantastic. And I wish people at home, well, they're not at home, they're in their workplaces, people just like us are watching this, and take that to heart. I mean, the old school of the beatings will continue until morale improves. It really doesn't work, right? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You need to empower people. And I mean, this is something I've seen Topo talk years already. And I always admire the culture that's built there, but that's at the nitty-gritty of it there.
Yeah.
It's at the nitty-gritty of it. Jon, can you share with us give me some specific examples of, you got your customer feedback and how it translated and manifested into a better solution for people?
Yeah. And assuming this is going out to the general public, so we'll have to.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, we're not really big in the general public. Most of the people watching this are DevOps enthusiasts or, IT folks.
Okay. I just, I don't want to get in trouble with our, and plus.
Oh, no, yeah, please don't say anything that's going to get any of us in trouble.
Yeah.
But, our audience is fairly technical.
Yeah. Well, then in one case, and I can talk about this because we have features in market. So if you want to talk about a specific example, we developed a hypothesis that in many ways, out of the spirit of convenience, there's been a slow erosion of control over our money. So started off with credit cards, and then credit cards, you could use them to buy things online, you could get subscriptions, but slowly over time, the customer gave up some control in exchange for convenience. And so actually looking at a massive body of research, we synthesized a hypothesis that if we made a fundamental investment to give our customers more control over how, when, and by whom their cards are being used, that would be a breakout advantage for us. So we developed a platform that would allow us to dramatically increase the option set of features that we could experiment with. And that was actually one of the dojos, the first dojo that Aimee and I partnered on, because when I was looking at how much energy there was in this value hypothesis, I knew that I couldn't just guess one feature. I didn't want to try to catch lightning in a bottle. And what I needed was a set of flexible capabilities that would allow us to, over perhaps several years, experiment with different combinations of features to win with the customer. And that led us to launch an initial feature, which was just a simple ability to lock and unlock your card in real time from an app, from the website, over the phone. And that resonated massively with customers. It was extremely simple, but extremely easy to understand. And so we're like, wow, we're on to something. And then when the engineers, when they saw the customers tweeting, I mean, how often do you get an average person tweeting or saying something on social media excited about something their credit card company did for them?
So these are the commercials we see all the time. She's stopping it in the cab. Not to worry, I can freeze my card right now. And
Yeah.
great commercial.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and the thing is, we wouldn't have made the commercials if it hadn't already resonated. So we
Sure.
tested it; it resonated, and the engineers were incredibly energized by this, because how often do you, working really, really deep? It was a very technical, advanced engineering investment where people got to develop a lot of skills,
Yep.
a lot of new skills and very marketable skills. And people enjoy that sense of being able to advance their level of mastery in the skill set. But to me, like, when you, working in a very technical profession, can go home for the holidays and say to your family, oh yeah, let me show you a television ad about something that I built that's designed for a general audience, that's really rewarding.
No, yeah, that's a home run right there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Can I make another request, what I'd
Sure.
love to see? So you know how in your iPhone you could see which apps have turned on location services? I would love to see on, whether it be Capital One or any credit card app, who is turned on for automatic payments, or who's hitting my thing every month. This is my own personal problem.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you're not alone.
Yeah,
You are not alone.
there are so many of these automatic things
Yeah.
that go through, and I don't remember them. Sometimes I have to look and say, I don't even know who these people are.
And in many times the amount is so small,
Yes.
like $2, $5,
Right, that it doesn't pay to get nuts.
Yeah, and you don't really care.
But I'd
at the
love
end-
to see an on-off switch, like
Yeah.
location
Stop it.
services. I'm going to turn it only when I'm using the app, never, always, whatever. Something like that. Just my 2 cents on
Yeah,
that.
well, I if we were working on something like that, I wouldn't be at liberty to talk about it.
Oh, okay. Enough said. All right. Guys, we're just about out of time. Unfortunately, I'd love to talk more about it. But you know what? Look, Capital One, we'll see you, I guess, in, not San Francisco, Las Vegas in October. Or unless we see you before, I know you talk at many, many conferences. What a tremendous organization. You guys are really kind of leading the way, setting the bar here. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for all your contributions to DevOps and everything else.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so here live at DevOps Enterprise Summit UK 2018, this is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com and DevOps TV.